Hello everyone. Today we'll continue studying few more properties of probability measure. Let us first start with simple example. Suppose I have been given some values. Let's say probability of A is 0.8, probability of B is 0.7, probability of C is 0.5, then maybe probability of A union B is 0.6, probability of B intersection C is 0.1. Now one question is, are all these values feasible? Okay, are these given probability values feasible as per whatever properties of probability measure we have studied? Now let us try to check. Can you see some obvious inconsistencies? Correct. See, probability of A and probability of B are individually given to us. They are 0.8 and 0.7, and then we are saying probability of A union B is 0.6, which is not at all possible, because we know that A union B is superset of both A as well as B, so that probability has to be larger than maximum of these two. Okay, so probability of A union B must be larger than or equal to maximum of probability of A and probability of B, which is not happening here, so this is not consistent. Are there any other issues? Perhaps with B and C? Let us try to check. So probability of B intersection C is given to us. Apparently, looking at the intersection directly, we can't say anything. But now if I try to compute probability of B union C, I would get probability of B plus probability of C minus probability of B intersection C. So it would be 0.7 plus 0.5 minus 0.1. So this would be 1.2 minus 0.1, which is 1.1, which is again absurd. I cannot have probability of anything to be larger than 1. Okay. So this means that you cannot randomly assign some set function, some values to this measure. You have to make sure that the properties of probability measure are satisfied. Okay. Now we can take one more small example. So let us define omega to be script W. Script W is set of all whole numbers. Okay, set of all whole numbers. What do I mean by whole numbers? Whole numbers means basically 0, 1, 2 and so on. So natural non-negative integers. Okay. Now let me define script A as power set of omega. Okay, script A is power set of omega, and we define probability of A for any A in script A as sum over all those numbers which are in A, because A would consist of some numbers, right? Sum over all those numbers which are in A, e raised to minus lambda, lambda raised to I upon I factorial, where lambda is some positive constant. Okay, does this look familiar? Correct, this is your Poisson PMF, right? So what we are saying is, if my A is say singleton 1, then probability of A would be e raised to minus lambda into lambda. Okay, whereas if my A is doubleton 1 and 2, then I am defining probability of A as lambda e raised to minus lambda plus lambda square e raised to minus lambda upon 2. Okay, this is how things are defined. Now the question is, does this form a valid probability measure? Is it exactly same as what we have in Poisson distribution? Okay, so how would we consider? So we know that this part is true. This is exactly same as Poisson. But what about this? Is this also true? See, if I define A1 as singleton 1 and A2 as singleton 2, then this A set would be written as A1 union A2. Okay, and they are disjoint. So this would imply probability of A is same as probability of A1 plus probability of A2. Okay, which is exactly what we are writing here. Okay, so even in the Poisson setup this would happen. So this is exactly the Poisson PMF. We are just trying to check if it's a valid probability measure. So what are the conditions that we need for something to be a probability measure? First of all, for every set, the value of probability should be greater than or equal to 0. Is it happening here? This quantity, can it be negative? No, never. As a result, some of such quantities can't also be negative. So the first condition is automatically satisfied. So probability of A is always greater than or equal to 0 by this definition. Okay. Now, second condition is probability of omega should be 1. So, if you consider probability of omega, it would be sum over all whole numbers. So, sum over all i's in script w e raised to minus lambda raised to I upon I factorial. And you have proved this in your BSc class that this is 1. Okay, while proving that Poisson PMF adds up to 1. And the third thing is countable additivity. So does the countable additivity hold? So yes, by definition itself, countable additivity also holds. Okay, because what you need is probability of union n greater than or equal to 1 should be same as sum over probability of individual an's n greater than or equal to 1 if an's are disjoint. That is your definition of countable additivity, right? So let us try to check whether it holds true. So probability of union an we need, but we also know that an's are disjoint. First let us try to write probability of individual an. So probability of an by my definition is sum over I in an e raised to minus lambda raised to I upon I factorial. Okay. How would union an look like? Union an would actually be collection of all those i's in W such that I is in an for exactly 1n. Ideally, the definition of union is at least 1n. But here we know that n's are disjoint. So I is in an for exactly 1n. Okay, so at least exact or at least 1n. Both are same here. So how would we define probability of union an? By definition, probability of union would be sum over all i's in each an. So I would say sum over n and then sum over I in each an e raised to minus lambda raised to I upon I factorial. So what I am doing is for n equal to 1, I am saying okay, first collect all the elements from A1, add their probabilities. Then I have n equal to 2. So elements coming from n equal to 2 also. So add their probabilities and so on. Okay. And this part is nothing but probability of an which we mentioned above here. Okay. So this becomes sum over probability of an n greater than or equal to 1. That's what we wanted to prove. Okay. So Hence we have proved that probability of union an is same as sum or probability of an if an's are disjoint. Hence we have proved that P defined on this omega and script A is a valid probability measure. Okay, this is a valid probability measure. We can then go one step further and say omega script A P is a probability space. Okay, this omega script A and P is a probability space. Okay, so these were just couple of examples. Now let us try to study some more properties. So we will first prove what is known as disjointification lemma, because we are going to need it a lot in some other proofs. So let us first state and prove it. So disjointification lemma. What is a disjointification lemma? Now let omega script A be a measurable space. Okay, let omega script A be a measurable space. Let A1, A2, so on be a countable collection of sets from script A. Okay, let A1, A2, An, etc. be a countable collection of sets from script A. And here, remember, now we are not saying whether AIs are disjoint or not. AIs are some sets, they need not be disjoint. Okay. Then there exists a sequence Bn of mutually disjoint sets. There exists a sequence Bn of mutually disjoint sets from script A such that union An is equal to union Bn. Okay, the countable union, and union An, n going from 1 to m, is same as union Bn, n going from 1 to m. So for every finite m, also these unions are equal. Okay, let me repeat what we are trying to do here. So A1, A2, An, basically n corresponds to a sequence of sets from script A, and we are saying that we can construct a sequence of disjoint sets from the same sigma field such that these two conditions are satisfied. Okay, so let us try to see how this can happen. So we would actually give a proof by construction. So we are saying there exists a sequence, so we will try to construct a sequence which satisfies these properties. Okay, now try to think how it can be done. What do we want? We want the new sequence, we want the new sets to be disjoint, and secondly, we want the unions to be maintained. So what can I do? See, whenever you are stuck, go for a figure. If you draw a figure, things would pretty much reveal themselves. So suppose this is my omega. Okay, and suppose you have this A1, somewhere here you have A2, A3 might be somewhere here, and so on. Okay, I can draw A4, A5, fine. If you want, we can maybe draw one more. So A4, it doesn't have to necessarily intersect all the others. It can very well be somewhere here. A5, that is also allowed. Okay, So I have these AIs which are subsets of omega, and I want to construct BIs from them. Of course, I want those BIs to be in omega script A, which means that ideally I should construct BIs from unions or intersections of AIs and their complements, so that I can guarantee that BNs are also in the sigma field. Okay. Now let us focus only on A1 and A2. So I have some A1 here and I have some A2 here. Now, how can I construct some sets B1, B2 such that they are disjoint but their union is same as A1, A2? So this is exactly similar to what we did yesterday for proving the formula for union. Maybe I can call this as B1. Now I don't want to split it in 3 sets. So call this as B1 and then call the remaining portion as B2. Okay, call the remaining portion as B2. If I do that, then this remaining portion is disjoint from the earlier portion, but the union is maintained. Getting it? So this is exactly what we would do. Now when I bring in A3, then what happens? When I bring in A3, I want B3 to be disjoint from both the earlier things. So if this is my A3, then I would construct B3 as only the portion outside the earlier 2 things. Okay, so only this. Okay, so this becomes my A3. So I have to worry about not hitting A1 as well as not hitting A2. Okay, so does it look feasible? And union is still maintained, because if you take all of them, you are getting all of them. So let us try to just put this down in terms of notation. So what I did was, so let B1 be defined as A1. Okay. Then B2, what we did, from A2, we chopped away that part which was already in A1. So we took B2 as A2 intersected with A1 complement, so that we removed the part belonging to A1. Then B3, I want A3 and I want to remove both A1 as well as A2. Okay, this portion as well as this portion. So we did B3 as A3 intersected with A1 complement as well as A2 complement. Okay, so in general, Bn would be An intersected with An minus 1 complement, An minus 2 complement, and so on up to A1 complement. I am just changing order to make it more readable. Okay. Is it okay? So our claim is this Bn is the required sequence. So this sequence Bn fulfills all the conditions above, is the required sequence. Let us try to check. First thing that I need to check is Bn's should be disjoint. So consider Bm intersection Bn for m not equal to n. Without loss of generality, I can assume m is less than n. Okay, we will call the smaller one as m, larger one as n. So there is no loss of generality. So suppose m is less than n, then what is my definition of Bm and what is my definition of Bn? Okay, so Bm is Am intersected with Am minus 1 complement, Am minus 2 complement, and so on up to A1 complement. And Bn is An intersected with An minus 1 complement up to A1 complement. And because m is less than n, somewhere in between these we know that am complement is going to be there. Okay, somewhere here. So what is the meaning of that? We know that every intersection is subset of the individual sets from which the intersection is created. So we know BM is subset of AM because BM is AM intersected with something, whereas BN has AM complement in it. So this is subset of AM complement. Okay. So if this is my original omega and if I have AM here, then BM is somewhere here. Okay, so this is BM is somewhere inside and BN is somewhere here because it is subset of AM complement. So of course they are disjoint. Okay, so BM intersection BN is an empty set. Okay, so we have proved first thing, that is they are at least disjoint. Now the next question is, can I have the unions, so finite union as well as countable unions, to be equal? So let us start with the finite union first. So we want to prove union AN, n going from 1 to m, is same as union BM, union BN, n going from 1 to m. So again, what we have been doing so far, we'll do the same thing. If I want to prove that the two sets are equal to each other, we prove left one is subset of the right one is the subset of left one. So consider some omega belonging to union AN. So this implies omega belongs to AN for at least one n. Okay, so we know that BNs have been constructed by taking, only those parts from AN which are new. So let n0 be the smallest value of n. Okay, n0 be the smallest value of n such that omega belongs to AN. What does it mean? It means omega does not belong to A1, omega does not belong to A2, and omega does not belong to AN0 minus 1, but omega belongs to AN0. Okay, so N0 is the first time that omega is in some AN. Okay, so this is same as saying omega belongs to A1 complement, omega belongs to A2 complement, and omega belongs to AN0 minus 1 complement, and omega belongs to AN0. Okay, therefore omega belongs to AN0 intersected with AN0 minus 1 complement, intersected with AN0 minus 2 complement, and so on, intersected with A1 complement. I am just writing this same information in the form of intersection because here these comma is actually meant and we know this is nothing but my BN0. So omega belongs to BN0 and hence omega belongs to union BN, n going from 1 to m because n0 is less than m, less than or equal to m. Okay, so what we have proved is union AN is subset of union BN, at least as far as the finite union is concerned. Now I have to prove the reverse way, that is, if omega is in union BN, I have to make sure it is in union AN. So let omega is in union BN, n going from 1 to m. This would mean omega belongs to Bn for exactly one n because Bn's are disjoint. Okay, so let that be n0. So let that n be called as n1. So therefore omega belongs to Bn1. By my definition of Bn1, this would imply omega belongs to An1 because Bn1 is subset of An1. Okay, and of course n1 is less than or equal to m. Therefore omega belongs to union An, n going from 1 to m. So we have proved that union Bn, n going from 1 to m is subset of union An, n going from 1 to m. Hence, we have proved that it is true both ways. Okay. Therefore, union Bn, n going from 1 to m is same as union An, n going from 1 to m. Okay. Now for countable union, I think you can try to prove on your own. Okay, the proof is going to be exactly similar, no twists and turns. So you can prove for countable union. Now we have to talk about what is known as continuity theorem for probability measure. But before we go there, let us try to prove this similar result just for unions and intersections. Okay. So I'm not directly going here. I am just stating similar results. So let An be a sequence of non-decreasing sets. Okay, let An be a sequence of non-decreasing sets. Then we want to prove that probability of An converges to probability of A, where A is limit of An. Okay, so when I say converges, I basically have to say that limit over probability of An, n going to infinity, is same as probability of A, where A is limit of n. Okay. So non-decreasing basically means kind of increasing. So we know that in increasing sets, A would be union of An's, the limit would be union of all the sets. Okay. So does that help me? Let us try to think. So what I want to compute is limit n going to infinity probability of An, and we want to prove that it is same as probability of A. So let me try to start with RHS and see if I can get something. So probability of A would be same as probability of union An, n greater than or equal to 1. Okay. Now, by the disjointification lemma that we described above, I can construct a sequence of Bn's such that union n is same as union Bn. There exists a sequence Bn of mutually disjoint sets such that union An is same as union Bn. Okay. And we also know that this thing is true for every finite union also. Every means finite unions of the type 1 to n. Okay. So let us use that. So probability of A, which is actually probability of union An, can be written as probability of union Bn. Okay. And because Bn's are disjoint, I can write this as sum over probability of Bn. Okay, because Bn's are disjoint, I can write this as sum over probability of individual Bn's. Okay, what else do I know? What I want to finally bring in, let me write it down here. I want to prove that this is same as, see, what I want to prove is limit over n going to infinity, probability of an is same as probability of a. What do I mean by this? So this thing I can write as sum over n going from 1 to k, where k goes to infinity, probability of Bn. Okay, this is a series. This is a series. So a series can be written as limit of the partial sums of the series. Okay, if you recall real analysis, these are like partial sums of that series. So the value of the series can be written as limit of the partial sums. And here we know that the series is convergent because it is nothing but probability of some set. So it is between 0, 1. Okay, so this is limit k going to infinity, sum over n going from 1 to k, probability of Bn. And what we know is Bn's are disjoint. So this is same as limit k going to infinity, probability of union Bn, n going from 1 to k, because Bn's are disjoint. Okay, you shouldn't forget that. And we also know by disjointification lemma that this finite union would be same as probability of union an, n going from 1 to k. Okay. And what do I know about ans? I know ans are non-decreasing, means I know that this is a1, this is a2, this is a3 and so on. So basically if I take a1 union a2, it is same as a2. If I take a1 union a2 union a3, it is same as a3. So because of this non-decreasing nature, union n going from 1 to k an is nothing but ak. Okay, the largest set. And this is exactly what I wanted to prove. So we are done. So we have proved that limit k going to infinity, probability of ak is same as probability of a. So at least for the non-decreasing sequences, we have proved that probability and limit can be interchanged. Okay. Now we'll do this for decreasing or non-increasing sets. So let an be a sequence of non-increasing sets. So an be a sequence of non-increasing sets. So what we know is an complement would be a sequence of non-decreasing sets, right? An complement would be a sequence of non-decreasing sets. As a result, we can use the result that we proved just now for an complement. So limit n going to infinity, probability of n complement is same as probability of a complement. We have proved that if an converges to an complement converges to a complement. And here we know a is intersection of ans because my ans are non-increasing. Okay. So let us substitute the probability of complementation. So limit n going to infinity, 1 minus probability of an is same as 1 minus probability of a. Okay. And I can cancel 1 from both the sides and I'll get limit n going to infinity, probability of an is same as probability of a. Of course, I have to multiply by -1 also. So we have proved that at least for the monotone sequences, limit and probability can be interchanged. Now our next job is to do it for non-monotone sequences. So non-monotone means general sequences. So try it as a homework. So what is the homework? In general, if a complement, sorry, not complement, let me write down. So the homework is, if an is a sequence of sets converging to A. Now I am not saying whether n is monotone or not. It need not be. If n is a sequence of sets converging to A, then an probability of an converges to probability of A. Okay, this is what you are supposed to try and prove. If you can't do it, we'll do it in the next lecture. Okay, thank you.